Hi, I'm Chris, and today we're shooting this. Let's go!
Black glass, phone flash, slow walk past the velvet rope, gold chain, gold frame, I say.
So we are here now in the studio and my model is here. Tell me a little about yourself and what we're going to do today.
Yes, so I'm Catherine, I'm 23, and today we're doing this Scandinavian soft girly vibe called Soft Power.
Soft power, here we go.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Christian Schneider and I'm a professional photographer from Stockholm, Sweden. And as you saw in that non-AI intro, I can also ride dragons. Today I want to show you one of my favorite portrait sessions I shot this year. The series is called Soft Power. What's interesting about this shoot that it wasn't like a huge production. There wasn't a big crew, there wasn't a massive budget, there wasn't some crazy cinematic setup. It was incredibly simple. 3 lights, a white background, great model, handful of carefully selected outfits, and yet it became like one of my favorite sessions so far this year. So in this video, I'll share exactly how I lit it, how I styled it, how I directed it, and how I edited the final images. The name Soft Power was actually an idea I wanted to do for some time, and then Kathy reached out to me on Instagram asking if I wanted to do a collab, and I really liked her energy and presence she had on her clips on Insta and TikTok, so I threw this pitch together that I put on my website that I always send to the people I want to work with. A session that wasn't supposed to be loud, a session that wasn't supposed to be aggressive, a session that wasn't supposed to try to shock anyone. Instead, confident, elegant, strong in a quieter way. To me, it's about presence more than performance. One thing I think about a lot when shooting portrait is that the clothing shall just support the image, not to dominate it, because it's easy to get distracted by that. Of course, if it's something funky, some extreme fashion or something, that's really cool. But I think the subject shall always be the hero of the scene. Throughout this session, we worked with a very limited palette, like beige, cream, sand, white, and these espresso tones. And I actually, 2 of the scenes here, I used a background from Colorama that's called Espresso, and I bought it for this session, and I never used it since, but I think it was, really cool, and it fit her skin tones absolutely perfectly. And in this session, nothing was screaming, for attention. Everything was just working together, that's how I see it. And we had this oversized knitwear, trench coats, tailor jacket, white shirts, and soft neutral fabrics. Even though there were 7 different looks, they all felt connected, for me, because they belonged to the same visual world, and we borrowed some clothes, Kathy brought her own, and we made this ourselves, and I'm really happy how it turned out. And of course, a huge part of this session was Kathy. Some models require a lot of direction, others naturally bring something to the frame. Kathy has a very strong presence in front of the camera, I think. She's expressive without overreacting. She understands subtle movements, and that's what I think the most important thing. And for a beauty focus shoot like this, that's incredibly valuable. And many of these images came from tiny adjustments, a slight change in the eye direction, a small movement of the chin, a shift in posture. That's often all you need, and Kathy is super great with that. The lighting setup was actually very straightforward. And here you can see the 2D print of it or whatever. First we had the main light. The key light was the Godox AD600 Pro, as usual, and the big 106cm Parabolic Umbrella with Diffusion. This is probably my favorite modifier in the studio. I told you that before. I use this on 99%. It's the setup I always rigged. And if someone told me I can only keep one light modifier for the rest of my life, it would probably be this one. It creates beautiful wraparound light while still maintaining some shape and dimension to the face. And then the background lights, of course. For the background, I used 2 additional Godox AD600 Pros. Both were aimed at the white background to keep it clean and even. But I don't want like the background completely blown out, because then you'll have all this spill. Since my studio is really small, you will have all these like highlight spill on the back of her head and stuff, and that can be cool as well, but not in a clean session like this. I wanted it to be bright, but just like a little bit of tonality and texture. That's one of the reasons why these images feel more refined than a typical high-key beauty shot. The entire session was shot with the Nikon Z8, and lenses was the Nikon 85mm 1.8 and the Nikon 50mm 1.8. Settings, pretty standard here, ISO 64, 1/200 and f9. And yes, f9. I know that probably sounds boring in today's photography world, but when I'm shooting beauty portraits, I want detail. Like I said before, I want the entire face to be alive. I want eyelashes sharp, I want skin texture, I want eyes, lips and facial structure like all working together. I'm not particularly interested in like having one eye sharp while the ear disappears into like another dimension. One thing you'll notice throughout this session is that the posing isn't complicated at all. In fact, most of it is extremely simple. Hand placement, eye direction, shoulder position, tiny adjustments. When someone has a strong presence in front of the camera, the goal is often, for me at least, to do less, not more. And that's something I learned over the years. A lot of other photographers keep adding like more movement, more posing, more complexity. But you know, often the strongest image is the simplest one. And that was what I was going for here. Now let's talk about the part people often underestimate, color. Because the lighting creates the structure of the image, but color creates the mood. You know what I'm saying? Let's look at the raw file here. This is the before, and now here's the finished version. What I'm doing isn't dramatic in any way. It's mostly like subtle adjustments, warmer midtones for this kind of look, softer transitions, slightly less digital looking color, a little film inspired character. I always add grain, film grain in Capture One to my images, because I think that reduces the digital feeling a lot. Nothing extreme, just enough to push the image toward the feeling I had in mind when I like pressed the shutter. By the way, if you like the exact look from this session, these are the same presets I use in my own workflow, and they're available at theeditstyles.com. For $79, you'll get all of the presets used for this soft power session, along with the black and white presets from my previous portrait session with Kathy. What you're seeing on the screen right now is exactly the workflow I use myself. No secret version, no hidden settings, just the real thing. A question I get all the time is like, how much of this is lighting and how much of this is editing? My answer is like usually lighting creates the image, editing completes the image. The edit isn't rescuing a bad photograph. The photograph already needs to work in a way, but the grading is like what helps creates consistency, mood and identity. And of course you can really change a photo from, you know, from looking something to something completely different, but I usually don't do that. And it is what turns a collection of images into a body of work, I would say. One of the reasons I love this shoot so much is because it proves something I believed for a long time. And like, photography doesn't have to be complicated. This wasn't a giant production, as I said in the start. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't technical or difficult, you know. It was simply a strong model, delightful styling, clean lighting and attention to detail. Sometimes that's all you need. And if you enjoyed this video, let me know which of the image from this series was your favorite. And if you'd like to see more of these behind the scenes videos like this one, make sure to subscribe. And I love reading your comments and everything. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!
Ghost dripping in the daylight train.